Welcome back. Now, India is called the GCC capital of the world. Now, GCC stands for Global Capability Centers. Now, according to IT industry body NASSCOM and the consulting firm Zinnov, the GCC market in India is expected to hit a size of nearly $100 billion by 2030, and currently it's about $65 billion. Also, the number of GCCs who set up shop in India currently stands at about 1,700, and this number can rise to 2,100, 2,200 by 2030. Now, you would ask, why is this relevant to India's? Well, if GCC expansion continues in India at a rapid pace, it also poses a risk of insourcing to Indian IT companies, because work which would have otherwise gone to IT service vendors are now going to be done by the GCCs. And GCCs are now doing strategic work. They've become large technological outposts for MNC companies. GCC expansion also affects the talent market in India, because what we've learned is that most of these GCCs pay higher salaries. There is one report, I think, by Team Lease Digital, where they're saying that they're paying about 12 to 20% higher compared to the Indian service vendors. So therefore, it puts that competitive pressure on the industry to recruit top talent. There will be pressure on margins as well. But to talk more about how GCC market is evolving in India, we have with us Karthik Padmanabhan, the managing partner of Zinnov, joining in. Karthik, thank you very much for joining in. This is Reema here. So first, if you could just lay out the GCC landscape in India right now.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. And you give a great introduction into how the GCC landscape is really exploding within the India ecosystem right now. We have just launched the Zinnov NASSCOM GCC Landscape 2024 report, and it really tells a story of a robust and a mature GCC industry, which continues to take great strides in enabling global organizations. Sometimes we look at products for the world, which are actually built in India. We have about 1,700 GCCs in India. It's home to 1.9 million professionals. I think you called it as the GCC capital of the world, which is absolutely true. It has the largest base. It has 17% of the global technology capability centers across the world based in India, which is approximately 23% of the global software engineering talent is also based in India. Further, if you really look at it, 70% of the Fortune 500 companies, think about it, 70% of the Fortune 500 companies will be expanding their presence in India by 2030, which is a significant number when you really go about it. Right, a revenue standpoint, you hit it absolutely correct. We estimate the GCC revenue to be close to 65 billion, potentially going to about 100 to 110 billion in the next 5 years. We don't see this slowing down at all, right? We see this, if anything, accelerating even further. We see expected to be about 2,200 GCCs by 2030, double the number of units. We're just talking about GCCs about 2,200. But if you look at most of the centers today have a first center, they're opening up a second center or a third center. So we almost expect about 4,400 to 4,500 centers across India by 2030, and a headcount of over close to 2.8 billion to 3 billion people, right? Which is 3 million people, which is significantly high when we look at the overall number of tech professionals and GBS professionals right now, right? So that's the kind of landscape that we were talking about over here, significantly expanding in the GCC side.
Okay, Karthik, good to have you on the show. So you said those numbers, they seem to be suggesting that there's going to be a big growth, and you also said there's going to be no slowdown in the growth that we are seeing in GCC. What does it mean for the other sectors? Currently, GCCs are concentrated in the BFSI space. So do you think there is a risk of insourcing in the BFSI segment? And are there any other sectors where there is a possible risk like that?
So let's actually talk about the maturity of some of these centers. Some of these centers, so BFSI sector has been in this area for quite a long time. So if you really look at some of the centers that were actually set up, either JP Morgan, for example, that set up long ago, Citibank set up long ago, Standard Chartered set it up about 20 years ago, for example, right? These have all become mature centers, right? HSBC operations, there are about 42,000 people who are here across technology and operations. The same thing has expanded across all centers. We are seeing a significant uptake in both healthcare and life sciences. Healthcare and life sciences has become a very mature GCC industry today. There are a number of large-scale, both healthcare and pharmaceutical companies who are set up there, both technology, R&D, and IT services, operation services, clinical research, all of that being done over here. Retail, again, and consumer goods, for example. So companies like, let's say, a Walmart or a Tesco, Pepsi, Nike, they have been here for a long time and they are continuing to mature. They're also looking to build core COE capabilities. So artificial intelligence, machine learning kind of work is also coming in. But we should also then acknowledge the work that the technology centers have set up. So your Microsoft, Googles, Amazon, Adobe's, they are the ones who really push the technology maturity up the curve. So today, when you walk into a GCC, you're likely to see cutting edge work being done. You're likely to see extremely technology work. But back to your question, does it impact the service sector, your IT services background? I actually come from an IT services background as well. So I've come in from an organization which did IT services into the GCC sector. I'm able to see both, right? And today, it is a mark of maturity of the sector that both IT services and GCCs are able to coexist, right? They are able to coexist, work together. IT services companies are able to provide flexibility in terms of workforce, talent, ability to ramp up quickly, ability to harness talent faster. So that is definitely ability for them to work together. Another big angle from the IT services side is the fact that they work across sectors. So lessons that are learned from, let's say, a manufacturing, logistics, retail, can always be replicated into a banking sector or into an insurance sector, for example, especially when it comes to consumer behavior, consumer goods, and things like that. So IT services sector are able to cross-pollinate learning, and that cross-pollination of learning then can apply into a GCC. So I do see that this sector, both, in fact, in a way, there's a symbiotic relationship with both spurring each other on, and I do believe there's a space for both of them.
Just a quick word, we are running out of time. Karthik, what about the salaries paid by GCCs versus the other IT service vendors? Have you done any analysis on this? How much higher are we talking about?
And your numbers were spot on, right? You said about 12 to 20%. Our numbers indicate roughly the same. GCCs are able to pay 20% upwards, right? So anywhere between 18 to 22% higher compensation when it compared to an IT services sector. And therefore, they're also able to attract better talent to a degree, right? So you're looking at, let's say, niche talent, they're able to attract that better. Now, GCCs also have a pyramid structure, which is probably more closer to the middle sector. They are having more experienced people, architects, more senior staff within them, because they're able to attract it. An IT services sector would typically take in from the bottom, have a large intake of 0 to 2 years experience and groom them all the way. So a different philosophy in terms of how talent grooming actually happens, but the GCCs are indeed able to attract better talent by paying higher compensation.
Okay, all right. So higher compensation coming in from GCCs. We'll have to see how salaries pan out in the IT space going forward. Thank you so much, Karthik, for joining in today with your take on what's happening with GCCs, something that is expanding the market, something we'll be watching out for as well. Time for a short break now. When we return, we'll get you excerpts from the conversation we had with Sunita Reddy, Managing Director of Apollo Hospitals, on the sidelines of the IMA 51st National Management Convention. Stay tuned for that.